Alright, so I was just sitting here thinking, how many times has it been that people have asked me, where would I rank individual Primarchs? And I kept on thinking about the question. So what I'm going to do here right now is I'm going to go through a tier list of the Primarchs and basically, 1 to 20, and just tell you where they rack up for me and how I feel about them in general. Okay, so let's just start off with a Lion. So, where's the Lion at down here? He is somewhere along right about here. Now, the Lion, definitely master strategist. First Legion had a huge population up until the Rakdan Genocides. He was an extremely good leader. He was an extremely powerful combatant. But the man's social awkwardness caused so many problems for himself and his legion in the future of the Imperium that I have to take points away from that. So the Lion, without all those problems that he has with dealing with people, gets an easy S tier. But I have to rank him in A. I cannot give him S. In fact, he might even be B tier. Mainly because of the reasons that I specified. His own social problems, his own inability to communicate with his legion, led to a good portion of it rebelling, which they're still dealing with today. Next, we have Fulgrim. Now, Fulgrim is just one of those Primarchs that really annoys me. His fall was just... He fell because he thought that he was so great that there was no possible way that anything could be wrong with him. He legitimately just fell out of sheer arrogance, and that's the primary cause of it. I did not particularly appreciate them retconning his story, and the end of Fulgrim, if you have not read that book, is actually a heartbreaker, and it gives you some hope until you read a short story brought on later on down the road, which pretty much retcons it out of existence, which would have made an amazing possibility for a redemption arc. With that being said, because of everything that he did and all the shenanigans that he tried to pull, as well as the fact that his legion is literally not a legion anymore because it completely fell apart. Basically, he just stopped being a Primarch. That's what it boils down to. He goes directly into the D rank. And that's just how it is. Perturabo. Now, Perturabo may, to some people, be a little bit on the squingy side or whatever. He may be, like, people may say, oh, he's bitter, blah, blah, blah. He's just so, angry about everything. No, Perturabo is a beast, okay? This guy he had, like, disciples of Nurgle show up on his ship one time. And they told him, oh, come, be with Papa Nurgle, everything will be great. Did he just sit there and say, no, you guys I think I'll be fine, I got my own thing going on? No. His way of informing any other disciples of Nurgle that they should just leave him alone was to literally beat their Thunderhawk into powder, and it was awesome to read. Not only that, his legion stayed mostly together. Now, there was some separation into warbands, things like that, but Perturabo is just a beast, okay? Even before pre-heresy, the only reason that he eventually snapped is because he was doing things that were making that other Primarchs just simply couldn't handle. Fulgrim wound up taking on a battle where he lost, I don't know, I think about 700 Astartes. Perturabo would consider 700 Astartes lost in a single battle to be an absolute blessing, considering how much the rate of attrition was, considering the battles that he fought in. And he fought in these battles constantly. If reinforcements had not arrived from outside of Terra, Perturabo would have won the Siege of Terra if he had even decided to stay there. He eventually just got fed up with the general nonsense that Horus was spewing and just left. And I've been in Discord several times talking about how hilarious it would be if you just make a comedy special about Perturabo basically saying, everybody get in the truck, we're leaving. So Perturabo is the first into the S tier for me. He is a solid S with no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick-ass boy. Damn.
Now we're going to move on to Jagatai Khan. Jagatai Khan, I really like what they did with him, because nobody really thinks about the White Scars unless you decide you want to play them. Nobody really thinks about the White Scars, and that's part of their whole shtick. The way they were portrayed in Scars is absolutely fantastic. I loved how they did their battles. I loved how they explain how the White Scars actually go about their business. Jagatai Khan is the perfect leader for that. He's also an excellent swordsman. He's an excellent fighter, but I cannot get him in S or A just because of the sheer fact that their whole thing is the run and gun. Their whole thing is speed, and if they get pinned down based off his own battle tactics, it causes massive problems. Now, that being said, it's not a pity B, it's not a sad B, it's like B+, almost A. So, Jagatai Khan is B+ in my book.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Let's move on to Leman Russ. Now, if you've heard me talk about Leman Russ, you know one thing. I like the concept of Leman Russ. I don't like what Leman Russ is in practice. There are a few Primarchs that really, really had positive and negative effects on their Legion. Obvious one for a negative was Lorgar, because he just turned it into a hellhole. Obvious positive would be Sanguinius, because he took a Legion that was honestly close to the World Eaters at their worst and turned it into one of the most noble legions, period. So when it comes to Russ, I don't know right out if he did anything beneficial to his legion. I don't know if he really did anything that boosted them or made them better. In fact, because of him and because they knew, because of, what the role the Emperor had for him, I think he did a lot, more damage than he did good. So when I look at Leman, is he a good fighter? Yes. Is his legion good at fighting? Yes. But their reputation has recovered so much in my eyes since their heresy, compared to their heresy days, because the wolves during the heresy days are absolutely insufferable. And that's because of Leman Russ, because you will not see a subordinate acting in a manner that the leadership does not view as appropriate. And for his subordinates to show up and basically piss off a Primarch enough to where the Primarch is about to kill them, and then they sit there and have to remind said Primarch, if you do this you're gonna piss off my daddy. No. That is on him, and him entirely. Added on to that, the Space Wolves aren't even good fighters. Flat out. They basically lost a third of their number fighting half of their number. With a lot of support staff, and then got trounced out by the Alpha Legion pretty hard. So for all those reasons, I have to give Russ a C ranking. Just a C ranking for Leman Russ. Now, hopefully he's learned some stuff during his stint and his time away from everything, where he comes back and he doesn't make all of his existing chapter a bunch of insufferable idiots. But, we'll see. Moving right along from him, we have Rogel Dorn, and you already know where he's going. Rogel Dorn is an absolute beast, okay? He is an excellent fighter, master strategist, excellent at defense, flat out. He managed the Siege of Terra against huge odds for a very long time. Now, I did say that Perturabo would have eventually won that, but the fact that Rogel Dorn held out for as long as he did also says something. Not only that, he was sitting there doing most of this stuff alone for most of the time. Add on to that he had definite improvements done to his Legion by his mere presence. Not only that, the Black Templar called Dorn their daddy, and Papa Dorn didn't raise no bitch. So for all those things, Dorn goes immediately to S tier.
Once upon a time, I was me.
This one's gonna hurt my feelings. Conrad Curse. Conrad Curse is one of my favorite Primarchs, but I'm gonna go ahead and put him in, and then I'm gonna explain why I'm doing to him what I'm doing. Conrad Curse is C at best, and probably, sadly enough, D. And the reason he is that is because he lost full control of himself and his Legion. Not his fault, mind you. Granted, I'd say Conrad Curse is in my top 3, easily 3 or 4 top melee fighters in the Primarchs. Out of all the Primarchs, I list him in the top 4 hard. Like, there's no way to take him out of that list. He put the smackdown on Gilliman to the point where it was pathetic. He made Corvus Corax run away. He just, throughout the Horus Heresy, every time he was involved in a story, he was just styling on people. The Lion beat him one time, and I actually had a debate with somebody about this. He was in positions to kill the Lion several times. The Lion got him one time, and when he got him that one time, that was it. Broken back, it's over. But 1, 2, and 3 as far as melee combatants, I'd say the Lion, Sanguinius, and Curse. Perturabo would be the 4th. Perturabo and Curse, I'd love to see what would happen if, do a versus battle versus them. But he lost absolute control of his Legion. It was an absolute travesty. And it was mainly because of his own mental issues. So just like with Russ, now the reason Russ is up higher than Curse is because Russ maintained control of his Legion, even though it was a miserable thing to watch sometimes. He still maintained control of it. Curse just lost it. It was over. It was gone. And that makes me sad, because I really like Conrad Curse.
Hell no, to the no.
Moving on directly from Conrad Curse, we go to Sanguinius, and you already know. Do I even need to say it? Sanguinius is legitimately S tier, flat out, and there's nothing else to say about it. Sanguinius took the Blood Angels, who were at the point where before they were the Blood Angels. I can't remember right off the top of my head what their Legion name was, but they were so close to just completely flying off the rails. They were despised by the other legions. Nobody really liked them, and you can tell why. It was just really, really painful to read some of their pre-unification with their Primarch, lore bits, because they were just an awful lot of people. Until Sanguinius showed up. Vox in the Void put out this magnificent audio drama, and it was brilliant. I'm going to have to look that up just to listen to it again. If you haven't listened to any of the Vox in the Void stuff, I highly recommend it because he does good work. So does Baltimore. You guys know I love Baltimore. Anyway, I'm going to get off the Sanguinius train. So I'm just going to get off of it. I don't need to explain why Sanguinius is here, okay? Now, next, we got our boy Ferrus Manus. Now, Ferrus Manus, we do not get to see a lot of him. We don't. I cannot get him, I can't score him low for that. I can't score him high for that. He mainly is going to be in the position where he is because of the way his Legion continued on after he was killed by Fulgrim. And where he's going to wind up in that list he's going to wind up on C+. C+, because I don't know, I either have not read enough or I just don't know enough about him, even though I'm compared to him when I'm not wearing the hat and I'm actually focusing in on something. Like I said, there's not really much I can say about it. I'm basing this mostly on the way his own troops viewed him and the way they carried on after he was killed. That says a lot. They didn't completely fall apart. They didn't, woe is me, all this other kind of stuff. They carried on.
What the hell is even that?
Now, moving on from Ferris, we have Angron. Another Primarch I really like that I'm going to have to really rate low. And the reason why is self-evident. And once again, not his fault. Angron is one of those Primarchs that you love to like seeing good things happen to them, but you know nothing good is going to happen at all. Angron, he had some parts of his brain blown out before he was even old enough to really, comprehend what was going on around him. He was attacked by the Eldar as soon as he arrived on New Syria. And past that, he just spent his time trying desperately to, stay alive in gladiatorial pits, and he was enslaved for the good amount of his life. And then you had the Butcher's Nails, and they did no favors to a legion that was already having problems with morale. It just an absolute travesty, and it really makes me, I really love a loyalist Angron, but in any case, sadly enough, Angron goes in the D tier list.
No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Now we have Gilliman. Decent fighter. Well-trained Marines. They were not the best combatants, no matter what anybody says. No matter what Matwardian heresy comes to play. He threw his weight around. And basically he did it after he basically comes to terror after he did none of the fighting for it. Then shows up and starts trying to boss everybody around. And the only reason they actually, settled down is because he was essentially threatening full-scale civil war if they didn't comply with the Codex Astartes. Which, for me, I do not care at this point. Right? Rabute Gilliman is as close to a traitor as you can get without crossing the line. And he has been that way since he founded Imperium Secundus. Now, Sanguinius and the Lion weren't tainted by that, just merely for the fact that they were trying to forge something out of nothing. But Rabute is the one that laid down the framework. That keeps him out of S. Just the way he acted, the little bit of fighting that he did, and the way he just basically showed up at the end and tried to boss everyone. The fact that he sat there and tried to boss around Rogel Dorn after Rogel Dorn had just essentially held the line for as long as he had just irritates the crap out of me. And he doesn't get S off that. He gets A-. A-. And I can't really rate him lower than that, even though I really, really, really want to. I have to take everything into consideration, and I just have to rate him A-. I can't do anything more than that. Mortarion. Now we're talking about Mortarion. Mortarion, D. Easy. Easy, flat out. Mortarion was the only Primarch that actually broke. He broke to the will of Nurgle. Instead of, he's the only one that did that. Conrad Curse went insane. Fulgrim like hookers and blow too much. Magnus just wanted to save his sons. Mortarion broke. And there's really, And remember how I was talking about there were certain Primarchs that did their Legion, a solid by joining them? And then there were certain Primarchs that had negative effects on their Legion. Mortarion is a prime example of that. Sitting there, oh, you did really good at the battle. Here, take this cup full of poisons and drink it. Oh, you're going to do really well. Here, Timmy, good job. Yeah. Yeah, no. We're not going there. We have Magnus. Now, Magnus, whether you love him or you hate him, he did a lot of things wrong. And mainly because he was too arrogant. And, well, he was too arrogant, but at the same time, the Emperor could have done him a solid and actually shown him things. But then again, it was the Emperor we're talking about here. Magnus, for me, goes in solid C tier. And the reason behind that is because the amount of mistakes that he made in the course of the Horus Heresy. If not for Magnus, the Webway project wouldn't be destroyed. If not for Magnus, a lot of other things would not have gone the way they went. But Magnus always thought that he knew better. Let's just not go into the fact that he made a whole bunch of back deal dealings with Tzeentch without actually knowing who he was dealing with. That wound up causing a bunch of problems for the Imperium much later. And the fact that he's still holding a grudge against against Fenris blows my mind.
You know, sometimes you have bad habits. Do you? Do you have bad habits?
Alright, so I'm going to jump back in. Horus. Horus catches a rather particular rank for me. Now, before the heresy, he was an absolutely stellar Primarch. He was an excellent general, great tactician, and he was a great diplomat. But wow, he fell off in the later stages of the Horus Heresy. Pissing off Perturabo enough to where Perturabo tells you to go to hell is really hard to do. That's exceptionally hard to do, but he did it. And it was mainly because he was too busy doing a whole bunch of stupid shenanigans because he was too busy with the warp versus actually leading the attack against the Imperial Palace, which he should have been doing, but he didn't. Horus is B tier. He goes from S tier past A down to B tier because of how much he went off the rails. And if he had just kept his eye on the ball, there probably could have been nothing to stop him. But he managed to make Perturabo say, I fuck this shit, I'm out. And that is difficult.
Fucking Horus!
Do I even need to explain why Lorgar is going to be the only Primarch in F tier?
Do it.
I think I will, just because I hate this guy. Lorgar's the only Primarch in F tier because he's the only one that actually deserves to be in, a tier that's actually lower than F. In fact, I would have initially put Fulgrim in F tier. I would have put Angron in F tier. But Lorgar is in a tier all of his own. And primarily because Lorgar didn't actually lead the Word Bearers. Corferon and Erebus did that. Lorgar came up with no plans. He came up with no plans of action. He basically, every once in a while, decided that he'd be in charge, but then he surrendered the command back to whoever he could blame whatever he did on later. I hate him. I'm not explaining any more than that because it's going to get me riled up, and I don't feel like being riled up because I haven't slept yet. It's 10:30, I haven't slept yet. I stayed up all night.
Look, fuck you. Fuck the plane you flew in on. Fuck them shoes. Fuck the socks with the bell on it. Fuck them cheap-ass cigars. Fuck your yuck-mouth teeth. Fuck your hairpiece. Fuck your chocolate.
Now we have everyone's favorite hug machine, and that would be Vulcan. Now, Vulcan, what can I say about Vulcan? I am a big fan of Vulcan. Vulcan, had a unique style all of his own. The way he treated people was just far different. He was the most friendly of the Primarchs by far, even though he killed an Eldar child by fire. He made sure his legionnaires kept contact with their families, and he's the only one to actually do that. Not to mention, he actually recovered after what Conrad Kurz did to him. Enough to basically stand in front of the Emperor. And he did not lie to Magnus when Magnus asked him a question that Vulcan straight up knew was going to send Magnus over the deep end. If you're talking, probably... People say that Sanguinius is the most noble of Primarchs. I have to give that to Vulcan. I really, really have to give that to Vulcan. Vulcan has stayed true to his principles throughout. He really did. The only reason that Sanguinius would be S tier and Vulcan is going to be where I put him is just because of the status of their legions. And even then, Vulcan's legion stayed together when they thought he was dead. And that's, you know, I have to applaud that. Vulcan is A+. He is absolute 100% A+.
I would like to pet this creature.
Now we move on to Corvus Corax. Now, Corvus Corax holds a special place in my heart because he's the only one that's ever going to tell Lorgar why a flock of crows is called a murder. Corvus, actually, he's been through, I think, more than most Primarchs. He has been able to handle more than most Primarchs. He handled the eradication of his legion pretty much the best way he knew how, and the only reason he didn't rapidly rebuild his legion was because of the interference of Alfarius and the Alpha Legion. Corvus did so much for them, and he's still currently hunting Lorgar. If not for a few things, he would get that S nod from me. But because of everything else he did, he goes into solid A category. Now we have Alfarius. Alfarius he's just a menace. He's an absolute menace to society. But the problem with Alfarius is if he's written about, he's just one of those characters that you can't give to somebody that doesn't know how to write him. Same with Perturabo, in my opinion. You cannot give that character to somebody that doesn't know how to write them, because you'll go from, you know, just trying to figure out who is who and what's going where and everything else like that, to all of a sudden you're dealing with this dick dastardly meme fest, and it's just annoying to watch. But Alfarius, if he's still Alfarius and not Omegon, or if he's Omegon and not Alfarius, or I just confused myself, dual Primarchs, twin Primarchs, just web upon web of lies and deceit and backdoor and everything that you can possibly imagine that's going here, there, and everywhere about that legion. Because of all of that, and just because how well they're written when they're written well, I give Alfarius a solid B+.
Stop posting about Among Us! I'm tired of seeing it!
And F is for fucking Lorgar. And that's pretty much how I rank the Primarchs in terms of tiers. Now, this doesn't mean how much I like or dislike a certain Primarch. For instance, I don't really like Guilliman at all. And I absolutely love Conrad Kurz. But that's how I view the Primarchs in the tier system. Well, that's it for me today. I'm gonna put this thing together, put it out to you guys, and I hope you guys are having a great day. I'm trying to have one. And I'll see you guys next time. If you guys are wondering where I made this list so you can make one for yourself, go ahead and jump in the Discord. The Discord's in the description down below. Just make your own tier list of this. I will put this in the description down below, and you can make your own tier list. Post it in the general chat. Let's see what everybody else thinks. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.